I think it's easier to believe in absolute right or wrong. It's so relieving to think that one person or one side has all the answers and that anything that challenges that is evil or isn't in your best interest. I fell down this rabbit hole in so many different ways. We do it. I think the most obvious is in politics, but we do this with our work ethic. We do this with our home and personal values. I found myself on more than one occasion, you know, believing in this all or nothing mentality. Um, like, like black and white is the only two options. It's just not that simple, though, because when we try to take it out of this absolute wrong or absolute right, we end up having to question our own beliefs and our own thoughts. It's so much easier to just fall in line, and we're groomed for it, right? I mean, uh, the way news is leans this way or that way, the way the algorithm spits out exactly what you want to hear and who you want to hear it from, and anything that challenges it, it's always presented to you in a way that makes the other side seem like it has no clue what it's talking about, that it's not in your best interest, that it wants you to fail. It wants you to believe that there's no possible way that that side could be right. And it's just, it's absurd how easy it is to convince people as a whole that that's the way it is because that's the way it's always been. I don't want to believe that. And not only that, I reject the idea completely. I think that while society and algorithms and broadcast channels may want us to believe that there's only wrong or right, that there's only yes or no, that there's only this or that, the world is just so much grayer, right? And there's a lot of space for interpretation there. There's each person's individual beliefs are sometimes based on nothing more than circumstance. So while it may be wrong for you, it's maybe all they know, or maybe it is right for them. And obviously, there's extreme cases of this. I'm not saying that, that morally everything should be open and accepted. That's nonsense too, right? There's clearly some evil in the world, and there's clearly things that are good, but on an average day-to-day basis, we're just trying to get by. It's not about whether it's right or wrong most of the time, as much as it is it enough to keep us going? Is it enough to get us where we need to be? Is it the right way to get there? And I think those are more important questions. It's we could easily just wake up every day and say, oh, I identify as this because this person said this, that, or the other. And that makes sense. So I'm not going to question anything else. And I'll just shove anything I disagree with under the rug. We can do that. I think, myself included, sometimes that's exactly what we do. But I don't think that's sustainable. I don't think that it's um, long term to our benefit. It makes me wonder if we just took one extra second before we said, "Oh, I agree," you know, before that dopamine hit that says, "Oh, this person thinks like me," or "This way of being makes sense to me," before we just assume that that is right, that taking that second to say, "Well, what if it isn't? What if that's not the way it has to be? What if I only believe this because I haven't seen anything else?" I don't know what would come of us and myself if I did that every time. And to contradict myself, sometimes I don't think that's necessary. Sometimes I think you have to act. You don't have a choice. You make a decision because it's in the moment, and if you don't make a decision right there, something worse than nothing may happen, something tragic or something that goes against what you believe. And that can, that can have its own set of consequences that we're maybe not always ready or willing to um, deal with. But if we don't do something, if we don't change at least how we view some of our facts and recognize that facts are sometimes created by circumstance and don't apply to everyone, then we're going to continue down the spiral that has us so angry and so frustrated and sometimes hateful and vengeful. And it's just, it's not sustainable. When I look at where I was even just a year ago and the anxiety that the world was creating, because I was watching the news, I was watching the news all the damn time, and I was paying attention to politics on a level that nobody should. We just don't need to know everything. Yes, we need to be informed, okay, but we don't need to know everything that's going on in everybody's lives, and that includes even the people who are running things for us. We're all human at the end of the day, and I'm not dismissing any negative things that people have done. I'm not, if you're listening to this and think I'm leaning one way or another, that's your interpretation. That's not my intent. What I'm saying is that we need to know what we need to know, and we need to recognize that we don't know it all. And I think once we start doing that, it's going to become a lot easier to not only hear people, but to actually act with intentions that are long term beneficial.